Okay, folks, good evening. It's just after 8 o'clock, and we'll see what we can knock out tonight on our Constantinian Byzantine painting project. If you're wondering who these guys are, they're the guys that got their ass kicked at Manzikert. All right. Well, we are way zoomed in on this. Let's zoom out a little bit. There we go. All right, so this is our first opportunity to take a look at the version 2 paint palette, how it did overnight. And we did, it is a different paper that's in there than normal, than the other palette that I used to use before. And we put some copper pennies in there to grab some of the mold. I don't know if that just sounds like a bad science lesson. I don't know if that's really going to work. But anyways, let's see what we got here. And this is extremely difficult to open compared to the other one. The whole edge is rubber instead of just the grommet. Doesn't smell like mold. Let's take a look at the corners. We put a copper pen in each one of these corners. There's nothing even remotely moldy looking there. Or here. Okay. Well, so far so good. Let's take some of these wrinkles out. And see what we got left over on this guy before we can start on the next one. We got hooves and horsehair and a beard and the bridle, I guess is what it's called, whatever goes around him. Yeah, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's get a color that has a little bit of this buff ought to be able to do fine. This right here. We'll see. Like I said, I said yesterday I needed to average one figure a day. So if I was on track, this guy would have gotten done last night. I knew I wasn't going to be able to keep that up Monday through Friday. So we'll have to do more on the weekends to make that happen. Or not. It's not the end of the world. But it would be nice to daydream about what I'm going to do next. While I'm on a long road trip, and I watched some videos today. I think I know what direction I'm going to go in, but regardless, I found an army I'm particularly interested in doing, even if I don't do them next. And I should say that with a caveat of an army that I had no interest in before doing, and then I looked into them and figured they would be probably pretty useful. But I'm not sure if that's what I'll do next. It does work well with what Mitch has in store, as he's supposedly picking up a new army at Historicon. Or I should say, 2 new armies, 1 army list, an A and a B of them, so we're going to be playing them. Hello, Nordic. Welcome back. I just got back from the gym a little while ago. I hadn't been in like 4 days. And I don't want to get in the habit of not doing that, because then I'm a little bit more tired than normal. And it's because I'd gone like 4 days. But, I was traveling and I wasn't going to go on the 4th. Like that, I want to get some painting done on the 4th. And I didn't go yesterday because the gym we go to is kind of in a small town. I know it sounds strange, but it's kind of in a little country town. And the place is like brand new. But it is 15 miles, 16 miles or so one way, I really don't want to go if it's just me. You know, for fuel purposes. It's not the smart decision. But I ended up going just me today because the daughter went earlier. She's out of school, so. All right, that part's done. We got to do the back of the seat rest, so to speak. Let's go grab a leathery color. Like that one that has a little bit of mahogany or something in it. You had your face assaulted by a wasp. Little bastard either slightly stung me, bit me, or the stinger grazed my cheek below my eye. I don't think he bit you. Only because I don't think that they bite. I got stung by one. I hadn't been stung by a bee/wasp in probably, see how old am I? Probably 40 years. And like 2 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, I got stung by one like here on my arm. And it wasn't a big deal. It was a bad move on their part. I was mowing the lawn and I was trimming the hedges, and there must have been a huge wasp nest in there. And a couple of them came out. One of them stung me there. And that was bad news because that basically killed their entire colony. But I felt like I had his stinger inside of me for like a year. It wasn't painful. I just felt like almost like you had a splinter. Just very mildly. I mean, I noticed that there was something there if I was paying attention, but it didn't swell up or anything because as soon as it happened, I immediately ran inside and put an ice cube on it. So, yeah. But that was the last thing that colony did. They all died. They all died. So, I'm not very sympathetic to bugs. Now, the same thing actually happened with a little snake. We've got some shrubs that are in front of the windows, and it was a little, cute little. I know some of you guys don't like snakes. I'm not one of those people. I think that they're cool. They just startle the living shit out of you because they move really fast, and you're not expecting them there. But it was a little like black racer. He was looking through he popped his head up and was looking around, and I'm like, dude, you need to get in there because I don't want to like chop his head off and make a mess all over the trim things. So, yeah, I don't mind snakes. I don't want them in the house. They just move fast as shit for not having any legs. Get a lot of wasps around a deck porch. Haven't been able to find a nest of theirs. Maybe go looking for it when it gets colder. I know that might be still a ways away. They're definitely sluggish when. The only flying insects I like are, I like bumblebees. I don't care for regular bees. They tend to be aggressive. A bumblebee is just kind of, doing their thing. We have these wasps. The neighbor's house, the property line is, it's right there. I live in a subdivision, so it's not like, I have a third of an acre. So the neighbor next door, he doesn't take really good care of his grass, so he's got some bald spots and stuff. And there'll be times where there's all these like flying insects over there, and they look really big. They look like wasps or hornets or something like that. And I looked up what they are. They are, and I forget what the name of it is right now, but they are, they're called cicada killers. And they hunt the cicadas and basically sting them, immobilize them, and then carry them to their lair, which is in the ground. They dig. You can even watch them dig and spit the little sand out. And they lay their eggs inside the carcass. And but they supposedly are not aggressive to humans. But, you know, if you screw around, you don't know that. I mean, they look freaking, they look big. Very, very big. And, but I don't go hunt them down or anything, but I haven't been attacked by them either. The scariest thing, flying insect-wise, I'd ever seen was at work, and I'd only seen them at work. They look like these big, they're ugly, and they're big. They're like the size of, their body is like the size of, almost the size of my pinky, and you can hear them flying around. And I'm like, I gotta look up what these things are, because it looks like a freaking huge mosquito that's smoking a cigar. And they're called giant robber flies. And they supposedly also do the same thing, except they hunt wasps, you know, and they do the same thing. They live in the ground and stuff like that. And they're supposedly, I remember looking up, like, you know, do they attack humans? I said, they're not aggressive towards humans, but if you got bit by one, because they bite, they don't sting. If you got bit by one, you're going to wish you hadn't. Actually, I hadn't seen them in a few years, but man, they're loud. And they're just angry looking. Looks like chomping on a cigar or whatever. You're not petrified of snakes, but I do not like them at all. I had a very bad encounter with as a small child. Dragonflies are your favorite? Your wife and I had a dragonfly themed wedding. Cool. They're neat. They're kind of like goats. Huh? Well, they see anything tall and they go climb on it. So they'll go on an antenna and just be like, "What's happening, dude?" I don't mind them at all. They're cool. June bugs. I don't mind June bugs. That's those little flying beetles that are, you know. But flying cockroaches, if there was a button that would exterminate them all, I'd be like, I absolutely hate cockroaches. I would rather deal with snakes. Hey, you're typing on a phone. I know, I'm translating. I'm like, huh? I can't see. I got to pull my contacts out to paint, so. How you doing, Will? You going up to Historicon in a few weeks? I'm not excited about it yet. I try not to get too excited about things because, especially the last couple years, it's like everything just gets pulled out from under you, and I'm like, I don't want to get the rug pulled. I'm fine not going and doing things. I just don't want to find out at the last minute I can't go to something. I would just rather get it in my head, hey, I can't go, you know. Then they're like, oh, surprise, you're not going, because that's kind of what happens at work all the time, and I'm not being paid, so. You crossed the 100-mile mark today. Piece of cake, right? Doing well. I have surgery this July, so I'll miss Historicon this year. Oh, man. I thought you were on the mend, man. Well, I hope it goes well. I hope it goes well. Yeah, I went, the last show I went to in Orlando, just recently, I saw so many people that were retired and just had so many health issues, you know, and it wasn't like they were huge or anything. I mean, they just had health issues, and I'm like, man, I don't want to turn into that, so I'm trying to, you know, my problem is I just, like everybody else, we just don't move around enough, you know, and that's just, you know, we're not kids anymore running around outside. You know, and our metabolisms took a left turn in Albuquerque. I never came back. Dragonfly in Japanese, Dumbo. You Dumbo. Cataracts, not a big deal. Has to be done. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you got that stuff down. Everywhere I go now, I got to bring my my reading glasses. I actually don't mind it because first of all, if you forget them, you just go to Walgreens and pick up another pair. And the other thing is actually I find that it helps you focus. You know, it helps you focus on what's there. It's just really weird as somebody who's always been nearsighted to not be able to see things because they're too close. It's just like, what? You're still active. Yeah, we're not. I know about that. You're not in that category. But I just saw some people that were like, they weren't that old, and I'm like, I can't have coffee. I can't have tea. I can't have soda. I can't have a drink. I can't. Like, holy shit, man. And you know, this person's not 90. I don't know. Maybe I just eat. Maybe I don't exercise enough, but I eat more balanced than a lot of people, which I do. Mine's just portion control, and I like food. I don't mind eating healthy food. I just like to eat. So I'm in better shape than I was 5 years ago. So that's good. So hopefully I don't have to do a shield tonight because I'm still a little shaky. Well, what do we got left on him? Beard? Yeah, let's go ahead and beard this guy up. Let's beard him up. A Byzantine soldier without a beard. It's called a Norman. You're forced to change what I was drinking because of kidney stones. I had a guy that worked that had really bad kidney stones. You like to cook and I like to eat, so I get it. One of these days I'll cook for the first time. Nah, who am I kidding? I just assemble stuff. You know, I mean, I make my lunch every day, but it's a salad. I already have something that takes forever to do. So, I lived alone for 11 years and didn't cook once. I might have made something like eggs and rice or some shit like that, but it's just not something that... I already have a hobby that takes forever to do. So, nobody's got to cook for me either. I'm fine, you know, eating whatever. I'm a fast eater, so I don't want to spend an hour making something and then 30 minutes cleaning it up and 3 minutes eating it. You know, I got stuff to paint. Question: what do we do when we completed all the projects we intended to complete? Oh, you funny guy. You funny guy. Hasn't happened yet, pal. I'm actually really good about buying stuff. My body is forcing me to eat homemade soups and salads. Everything else seems yucky. Nothing wrong with that. Salad never hurt you, buddy. I have one every day. If spinach makes you live forever, I've got the cure to. I'm going to be immortal. Because I have like a whole bag of spinach every day. And that's just because, you know, it tastes better than regular lettuce and it keeps a lot better. You know, you buy lettuce and like 2 days later it's shot, you know, it gets all watery and crap. I don't have a problem eating healthy. It's just, you know, they always say, oh, how do we make Americans more healthier? You know what you do? You make it illegal to have drive-through windows. You know? Mr. Hamilton, regards from Richmond, Virginia. Oh. We'll be passing right through there in a couple weeks. On the way to Historicon. unless we can't go for some unforsaken reason. You know, I'm not planning on not being able to go, but you never know. Richmond, Virginia. We go around it, though. I want to find out when they're going to get their act together and move those tanks. They have the tanks from Aberdeen that I've never gotten a chance to go to. They moved them over to Fort Lee, or most of them to Fort Lee, and the museum's not ready. But then there's rumors that they may not be open to the public, but oh well. They don't want me going to that museum. I'll be like, that's the wrong tow hook. That's the wrong thing. They added it in after the war. I say that because there was a tank guru when I used to work at the hobby store, and we were building 135th scale armory. And he kept saying that, yeah, that model of the T-34, they didn't have that during the war. They added that after the war to tow it from somewhere. And I'm like, man, you've really been looking at pictures up close. You've alerted the Amish. You'll be showing up soon, Tony. They have arranged a humid welcome. Yeah, it's just as hot up there as everywhere else. I could never be Amish. My religion is air conditioning. We went to Sarasota a couple weeks ago. I specifically did not eat at any Amish place because I don't need freaking bread and butter. That's the kind of stuff I'm trying to avoid, you know? Do Amish drink? I mean, I know they wouldn't drink a lot, but like, did they have wine or, you know, an occasional beer? Religions, baseball, attractive women, history, and music. That's more than one. There's like a little bubble of something there. Let's cover that over before we're further along. And we still have to cover it over. Reformed deist here. Pray at small shrubberies. That's right. But one that's not too expensive. I always wondered about that line. One that's not too expensive. Who gives a shit? You're not buying it. Bring me a shrubbery, but one that's not too expensive. The guy's bringing it. Who cares how much he paid for it? Moron. New Order Amish prohibit alcohol and tobacco use, but Old Order Amish did not. My seventh graders used to think that Japanese Shinto was pretty cool. Then they told their parents and I got phone calls. What do? They do like ancestor worship, right? Well, you know, as long as they stop, you know, as long as they don't go into the kamikaze mode. Man, I wish there was more Japanese historical stuff out there. Because, you know, between the Koreans, the Chinese, and the Japanese just don't have much stuff out there. And it's a shame because, you know, there's like a plethora of things. You can go hog wild with that. You could do all the warring state stuff, you know, from the late 1500s. Nobunaga and etc. Let's see if I can get this a little closer so I'm not squinting so much. Probably still have to squint. More worshiping nature, spirits, and very happy religion, which is why the kids liked it. Fond of Japanese history and culture, it isn't a secret that my preferred woman is Japanese woman. My preferred woman is a Japanese woman. I'm in Washington State, Nordic, used to be a long Renaissance era. Yep. Yeah, you could do all kinds of stuff with that. I like my vehicles Japanese. You know, after they switch them around and put the steering wheel on the correct side. His history, 25 years, Europe, Africa, Middle East, Japan. All middle school. Oh, my condolences. My condolences. I hated middle school. I'd rather go to prison than go back to middle school. Best job ever. I'm glad you think so. That'd be like, if I had to teach kids, which I wouldn't want to do, I would not want to teach middle school. You know, because little kids are little kids, you know? And they generally listen to what you have to say. High schoolers have some responsibility that's been handed to them. You know, like they'll have a job and stuff like that. But middle school kids are neither one nor the other, and they're smart alecky and stuff. Well, you know, I'm glad you enjoy them. I'd be guilty of hate crimes for sure. What do you call Amish who like modern conveniences and like to drink alcohol? I don't know. I thought about teaching history in school after college. Ultimately decided restrictions and issues involved not something I wish to deal with and refused to compromise my ethics on teaching history. Gotta love the age group. They're hilarious. I'm glad you do. I made sure that my daughter went to a private school in middle school. Absolutely. There's just too many loose cannons. And now it's like, man, kids getting BJs and stuff like that. And it's just like, what the hell? I mean, when I was in middle school, it was like, what would that have been? 82 through 84, you know? And now it's like, you know? Youngest teacher lasted teaching middle school for 2 years. Thinking about the possibility of doing something with Mesopotamian, perhaps something from Three Kingdoms of China or something with Japanese history. You're always thinking about something. You just need to make a decision. Actually, you don't have to make a decision at all until it's time to pull the trigger on it. That's just what it is. There's just that many. There's that many things that are interesting. Damn near everything. I remember, speaking of middle school, I remember in 6th grade, our social studies, I hate calling it that, social studies. No, it's not, it's freaking history. You know, the whole Greek thing. That was a cool class. We're in this big room. The only good thing about middle school is that's where I picked up my love of all things World War II. There was a series of books, and I don't remember what the hell they were called. I don't think they had many pictures in them, and they were like bound after the fact, and there was these. There were these books that were like history books, and I again, it's perception, so it may not be correct. They were like maybe this thick, maybe an inch thick, maybe they were actually only half an inch thick, and they were like, you know, Battle of the Atlantic or something like that. And it wasn't the Time Life stuff, okay, because it was mostly like blah 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 blah, okay, and they were like bound in a cover that had basically no illustrations on it. And it was like either red or blue or green or something like that. And on the edge of it, whatever it's called, on the end of the book, it would say, you know, Battle of the Atlantic or whatever that. And it was just on the naval stuff, because I was really into the ships and stuff. There must have been like 4 or 5 books on it. So it was really, really specific. And it wasn't Time Life. And this would have been, these probably were done in the 70s or whatever. And like I said, there was like no, and that's what I really got interested in that kind of stuff, you know, reading about the surface raiders and the U-boat war and all that kind of stuff. And that was before I even knew that there was like, you know, a war game you could play with it, you know? So, you have a lot of interest in history, a hard time choosing. Think something doing familiar with history, not familiar is a good option. What do I think about Old Glory 15mm Ancients miniatures? Well, lots of people dislike them. When I first found out about them was when I first started doing DBA in 2004. And at the time, all of their packs were 50 figures to a bag. And at the time, they gave you lots of different poses, unlike most manufacturers at the time. Since then, maybe 5 or 6 years later, they cut them in half. So they're like infantry bags are like 24, and I think their cavalry is 9. I like them. They are very robust. Their lances are strange, though. Some of them are way too thin, and some of them are way too thick. But if you plan on replacing them, they're fine. I think their horses are some of the best horses because they have horses that look like they would run your ass over if they charge into you. I like them much better than Essex horses. I'm not an Essex horse fan. And actually, one thing about Essex horses that are particularly bad, probably the worst thing about them is the footprint that the miniature has is very, very small. So when you pop them off the stand and you try to glue them, you have to play like this balancing game with them. I don't have a problem with them. The people who carries them in the United States is a company called 19th Century Miniatures, because Old Glory at some point split off, and 19th Century Miniatures took all their 15s, and Old Glory in the UK, as I understand it, they kept all the 25s and some other stuff. And the 15s are pretty much cast to order, so if you do have to order some, you got to plan appropriately. It took me 3 weeks to get my order for my Byzantines. But I like them. But, you know, lots of people aren't fans of them because it's too many figures, or I just want different pose variety if it's available. I mean, if I'm doing like Roman Legionnaires, I don't. But I like them. My only gripe with them is that their sculptor has a thing about cheekbones. Some of his figures have really pronounced cheekbones, and it's a problem when your entire army looks like that. If you occasionally have one guy or two or something like that, but when your entire army is like cheekbony, and they're bug-eyed too, almost kind of like remember Total Recall with Arnold when he has that dream or whatever, he runs out of air on Mars, kind of like that. God, I haven't seen that movie in freaking 30 years. Hmm. Used to hang each unit on a simulation or a game. You're a Western fan, huh? Not a genre that I've seen a lot of movies in. Man, I can't be into everything. Russ Dunaway in PA owns the Old Glory 25. There are two guys in Michigan who own the 15s. Yeah, that's the 19th century miniatures. And my favorite sculptor of all time started Old Glory with 15s. I say I don't have any heroes. If I had a hero, it would be, frick, I forgot my hero's name. Dave Alsop. Freaking love his stuff. His 20s, man. That's what got me. So, his old school. That's my favorite sculptor of all time. Nothing like a good Western movie. Doesn't do anything for me. You know, you get a lot of this stuff. You turn out the way you do from your dad a lot. And my dad wasn't into Westerns, but my dad was into history, so that's why I'm into history. My dad never watched sports. I don't watch sports. You know, I would rather watch Western than watch a sports. I don't get into sports. Especially because living in a sports town, people get like stupid and like irrationally like angry and shit about stuff, you know. And they always accuse. It's like bad gamers. They just accuse. Hey, you guys were cheating. You know, I've heard it all. I don't want to hear it anymore. Where's the gray I used for this horse? I think he's over here. Yeah, we're gonna put socks on all four of them on this. And then we're damn near done with this figure. We'll have to brighten up his the silver on him. We can move on to the next guy. I took 2 anthropology classes, and mainly as electives. Mainly because the teacher was really, it was for the teacher. But I also took history as all my electives as well. So the problem with history is I hate to write. God, I hate to write. I love to learn. I hate to write. I like to take notes. I just detest writing. I think the reason I hate writing is because I feel like I already know this. Why am I writing it down? You know, or I get writer's block. The way some of you guys get painter's block, I get writer's block. And I remember many a day I'd be like procrastinating a paper until like the last freaking night, and it was like the worst night ever. I would rather, you know, do anything that night, like be a prison bitch or something. Anything but write that freaking paper. Could write a paper or be a prison bitch. Prison bitch. Hate writing. So yeah, doing history would probably be a bad idea. But it's not because I don't want to learn stuff. Just the whole point in doing history is to learn, you know, what gain understanding. And even though I didn't start gaming ancients and medieval stuff until over 10 years being out of college, I still like to learn about it. And I still knew more about it than, you know, people off the street. Well, that's not saying anything, you know. I think that's the whole thing, is pretty much everybody watching here has common interest. Well, that's like I've said before, you know. I get on here to stay on track, and I get to interact with people that you know, like history / painting, whatever it is. They have the same passion that we do. I can't talk about people that work with this. It's just people can't understand. And one of the things that people can't understand is, and I didn't hit upon this until a couple of years ago, but I'm like, well, what do you do? I will play historical war games. Well, what do you mean? I said, well, we play historical battles, and we use rules and all this kind of stuff. And like, people weren't getting it, that it involved dice. They just thought that we just kind of reenacted, and everything would turn out the same way they did in real life. And I'm like, that would be stupid. That would be, you know, a pointless. So no, it's like, choose your own adventure. You know? Like, oh yeah, we use dice. Was there gambling? No, there's no gambling. Why does everything got to be about gambling? You're fond of writing history papers. Where were you 40 years ago? 40 years ago? Yeah, 40, 30 years ago. God, I hate writing. Now, what I wouldn't mind is, this isn't writing, I wouldn't mind like going through a book and like doing an outline, and then like teaching a class on a book, like on the successors, like the stuff that I've learned about successors, like go read a book, or, you know, listen to one and take notes as you go, and then go and present that class of what you learned, because I'm really passionate about all the really cool stuff that's in history. And that's what really annoys me, when somebody finally makes a history movie about something and they just turn the facts on their head. And it's like, dude, all you got to do is tell the story. It's like amazing. You were 8 years old 30 years ago. Shit, I was 21. And notice I don't say, fuck, I'm old. I'm not. I never feel old, but yeah. That was back when you could laugh about things. I was trying to watch some stand-up the other day with my wife, and you can't watch stand-up anymore. You just can't. They've ruined it. Everybody wants to make rude sex joke stuff instead of, you know, ethnic humor, which is what I like. That's what I grew up with. You don't hate other people. It's just fun making fun of our differences. Started wargaming in 1979 and got you beat. Are you familiar with the Clovis peoples and the Clovis digs in the West? What is in Clovis from the Merovingian Clovis? Another army to do. The problem with a lot of people that don't like history is it's just not taught correctly. It's super freaking interesting. But, you know, and I wasn't one person that had a problem with dates, because there's a lot of stuff that I already know. So when you learn new stuff, you just, oh, this goes in between this thing that I know and this other thing that I know. You know, but I guess if you don't know anything, it's overwhelming with the dates, but I never had a problem with dates. Digging. That sounds like there's no air conditioning there. I'm going to tap out on that one. As if I work somewhere that's always air conditioned now. I don't want to do something that's even hotter. And I'll be honest with you, I like it. I like history. I don't care about American history. I've taken American history's class, and it's like, oh, there's not enough interesting wars here, so we gotta like read about laws. And I'm like, no, I'm not interested in that. But the first thing that threw me off when I started wargaming these other periods, medieval, ancients, whatever, is I'm floored how much we don't know or we did know and was lost. I mean, it's like crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Like I was just I was looking at one of the candidates for the next thing that I'm doing. I know I've talked about doing Huns, and mainly because they go with what the Army Mitch is getting. But I started reading about the White Huns recently, and they kicked the living shit out of the Sassanids' ass, and actually had them as a vassal state for a few years, which is crazy to think that the Sassanids could be vassals of anybody. But as big as the Sassanid Empire was, but they fought this battle against the Sassanids, and I was trying to find information on them, and they didn't even know what the name of the king was for the White Huns. I'm like, what? And 30 years ago, I'm like painting, I don't know what color Panzer Dark Yellow to use for my Panthers in 1943. And meanwhile, it's like we don't even know about any of the rulers of this nation of people that subjugated the frickin' Sassanids. Like, that's frickin' crazy, He's a nice guy because he could hold more beer. You run into this, you've been researching 3rd century Roman shield patterns, and evidently almost nothing is known. Yeah, it just... That's why, I'm like... People are all ever so confident about certain stuff, and things that are like right here in front of our faces and happened yesterday, we don't know. Like, scientists will see this. And I'm not an anti-science guy, but, you got to realize you got to bring these people down to earth sometimes. Like, oh, there's this star and it's 15 million light years away. Do you understand what the heck you're talking about? If you had a spacecraft that traveled the speed of light, it would take you 15 million. I'm like, no. And you don't even know you don't even know what shield patterns the Romans had. And that was yesterday. So, we don't even know what's at the bottom of our own oceans, and you're worried about the frickin', something that's unfathomable, which, whatever you have is probably not correct, because, you can't even figure out what's underneath your own ocean, and you're worried about something 15 million light years away or 15,000 light years. It doesn't really matter. Both of them are as unquantifiable as either one. So, and the Romans was the freaking other day compared to, that kind of stuff. Like, if you had a superpower, it'd be a pretty cool superpower. Suck the water out of places. Like, just not permanently. Just like, let's take all the water out of the Mediterranean and see what the hell we find down there. I mean, there's got to be some cool shit there, Like, I'll be damned, there's Atlantis, They actually have a show on one of the Disney channels or whatever. I think it's a Discovery or something like that. And it's called something like Underneath the Oceans or something like that. And there's like 4 or 5 episodes, and one of them is on the Battle of Jutland. And they do this, basically, they show you the wrecks, and they take all the water away. And it's super fascinating if you're like a ship nut like me, You could have also said 5 parsecs instead of 15 light years. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's called something like that. It's called something like that, Will. It's really, really interesting. It's really, really interesting. Little horsey ear there. And we need to get some buff and put the stirrups in. Even though I'm not sure that they're cast really well on here. This is the Elaine 2-layer figures. All right, I think we're done with this guy. I'll move him off to the side. Let's pick the other guy up. You know what I'm watching? I used to watch it all the time. Yeah, there's a few episodes or something like that. I think it's super interesting. Super, super interesting. I saw a map the other day. I came across it. Like it was like year by year, like every wreck well that they found or they have identified where it might be, all from World War II by year. And it's insane. It's insane how much stuff's on there. I have a way with medieval shields. Thank you. I love heraldry. Now, if I had maybe a shitty heraldry myself, then, maybe I wouldn't like it so much. Like if I had like a potted plant like Mitch, I'd be like, nah, I don't want to have anything to do with that. All right, here's our guy that's next. Oh no, this guy has the padded armor. We're leaving him for last. So we're going to do the armored horse next, even though we normally do those last. All right, we got some black stuff to touch up, so let's go ahead and do that before we get carried away. I love heraldry. Say that 5 times fast. I like shields. I like flags. I don't like priming figures. I certainly don't like cleaning the flash off of them. Stuff that, anyone can do. I don't think, I don't like that stuff. I need to be on special missions. And it's something that I never got a chance to do when I was doing World War II stuff. I mean, unless you're building Japanese or Russians, you're basically never going to paint a flag. I'm talking about skirmish stuff. You're not going to have some guy, I guess you could have do some Barbarossa tanks or whatever when they had the the Nazi flag as the ID on the top of the tank, but short of that. Your maternal grandfather served aboard HMS Hercules at Jutland. Cool. You know, talk about Jutland. One thing that would be really interesting to do about Jutland, everybody does the stuff that they do. The night action. The night action where the Germans cross through the freaking British formation. That's got to be insane as a freaking game. You know, that's got to be freaking insane. But, you know, you'd have to find the information on what condition some of the German ships were in when they did that. Because a lot of them were, you know, they were beat up. You know, they were beat up pretty bad. They weren't sinking, most of them, but they were beat up pretty bad. I've got a couple of books, on audio books that I've read on Jutland, and they're really, really interesting. But, you know, you got to be into ships. You got to be a ship nut. So, you know, you said Hercules, and I'm like, I'm already visualizing what the Hercules look like. It's not like, oh, that's a King George V class. No, it's not. Got to be a rivet counter. All right. Armored horses. We have a light gray one, and we have a light gray one on the stand, so we're not doing this one light gray. We're not going to do dark brown because it's going to just blend with the armored horse color. I could do black. Let's do it in black. I said armored horse. I meant half armored horse. All right, I need to get another soda. I'll be right back. Okay. Uh-oh, we gotta catch up on shit. So, Jutland Beatty failed battle plans, yet got promoted over his superior Admiral Jellicoe after the battle. Go figure. Yep. Beatty married well, I seem to recall. Yeah, I believe he did as well. the grandfather was like. He replied that he remembers shoveling a lot of coal. Yeah. Hercules. So the same class as Colossus, I think. I think those guys were in the same class, those two. Which is a great freaking name. Some of those British ships just have freaking awesome names. Like, you know, Colossus. One of the books that I read was written by Jellicoe's grandson, I think. And it's not complicated at all because you have to kind of have an understanding of the battle and everything. But it was really annoying because it was like, you know, so-and-so engaged at this other ship at the distance of 19,700 yards. And then it would say 19,520 meters. Like every single time a distance was said, it was said in yards, and then it was turned around and said immediately afterwards in meters. So every distance was said twice. And like a yard and a meter is like not very different. Like pick one, you know, I don't even care. I'm not anti-metric, just using metric, you know. So all right. Black, huh? Okay. Black is. Oh, this needs to be taken off. This paint on the end of this brush is just cluttering on here. Just a little bit of maintenance. And I feel like this thinner helps. That's not why I do it. I do it just to kind of keep the flow going, but one book that's particularly interested about World War I is called The Kaiser's Pirates. It's available on Audible. And I actually have it in hardback too that I'll never get to. It was given to me. I can't get through books unless I'm listening to them in traffic, seems like. But yeah, I know most of the stuff in there, but just like the details of some of the stuff is just crazy. You know, after the Battle of Falkland Islands, the light cruiser Dresden that was playing hide and seek in the we'll call them fjords, but more like inlets in Tierra del Fuego is just crazy. That's like a movie in and of itself. English hobby shop most fine model of Hercules. Owner of the shop turned out to be a shipment of my grandfather's. Two of the ships at Jutland were really unlucky as they were hit by a shell that had gone straight down the funnel into the boiler room, blowing the ship to hell. Yeah, the Invincible blew up. The Queen Mary blew up. Lion almost blew up. I want to say there was a third one that blew up. Invincible, Queen Mary, both of those are battle cruisers. None of the battleships blew up. Maybe it was only two. Yeah. Hoffman! Yeah, we're going to try that Jenga thing soon. It'll be on video. Hopefully it's good. Sounds like a crazy idea. I figure I got an advantage over Mitch. Mitch has got, you know, shaky hands. Yeah, I think the German ships had double doors too, and the British had single doors. So, You know, generally the British ships had bigger guns, longer range, less armor. So, you're excited to see it, yeah? Oh, to jump on here, yeah. Yeah, like I said, the night action's got to be crazy. That's just got to be crazy. That's what you want to see. You want to see ships at like point blank range, because you don't get to see that in World War II. Like I'm much more interested in World War II naval, and I don't mean because the Americans are in it. I don't give a shit about the Pacific Theater. I'm a Mediterranean guy, you know, and hunt the Nazi surface raider kind of person. That's the scenarios that I like to do. But aircraft ruin everything. Aircraft ruin, you know, ships being able to go into combat without them knowing. So so there's something a little bit more pure about World War One, but there's all kinds of stuff you can do. But that goes into one of those areas where it's like sometimes you have to take artistic license with how things look. There's a thing that the Germans did in their ships in World War One that I would never do on the miniatures, and that's they painted their funnels. I want to say the Lutzow painted its rear funnel in red, and one other battle cruiser that is several ships that and it looks stupid. I just would never paint that on a miniature. I don't care if they did it. I'm not doing it. It just looks dumb as hell. Just like I'm not putting here I go again. I'm not putting a white star on the top of my British vehicles in Northwest Europe in 1944 for air recognition. I'm just not doing it. It doesn't look right. You know, why couldn't they get a roundel? Put a frickin' roundel on there, you know? Tony, you should play the Hex Encounter solo game Beneath the Med Sea. I'd play a solo game. I just don't want to learn the rules and play them wrong, you know? Speaking of solo game, the guys that made the computer version of Patton's Best is a tank simulator. And I got a couple of videos of that. That's a pretty fun game. And it's on computer, so you can't play it wrong, you know? British capped the T and should have done a lot more damage. Opening salvos were well short than the Germans turned and went down the line. Yep. Yeah, the Germans got lucky. They escaped. That's just going to be less time for painting. I have a very realistic, you know, approach. That's like, I'm just not going to get around to doing that. I'm just never going to. And it keeps me from buying stuff. Because, you know, I've bought stuff in the past and done nothing with it. So I'm not falling for that trap again. Like, there's a game that is right down my alley that I played and enjoyed it, but it was somebody else's game. It's a game I played for 10.5 hours, and it's a game called Here I Stand. And it is a card-driven, is it all card-driven? It's mostly card-driven game of the early 1500s, and you play either France or Spain or the Turks or England, the Pope, Protestants. It's a great game. But you need to have a lot of players, and I just don't have it in me anymore, you know? And I really would like to play the sequel to it, which is the Virgin Queen, because that's the period I love. I love the 1550s to 1600 period, you know? But you have to be realistic, like, I'm not going to get around to doing it, and, you know, I need to stick to doing this because these guys will be on film. They'll get used a lot. This is a smart investment. It's so smart, it basically makes every other investment like a waste of my time. So that doesn't mean I won't play it. I don't need to be the go-to guy on whatever the heck it is. I may have to tinker with this black a little bit, but at least I've got some of it down there. Let's go grab the SS Camo Black, which is really very dark brown. Here it is. They have a U-boat game for the computer, and I think it's called U-boat. Ooh, you know. One thing that people don't know, one thing that, and some of you may know this, but one thing that people don't realize is how much tonnage the U-boats in World War I sank compared to the U-boats in World War II. They sank a shitload of tonnage in World War I. I mean, they sank more in World War II, but, I mean, it's one of those things that gets forgotten. There's actually a really interesting program by this guy that has a podcast, and he's a history guy. His name's Dan Carlin. Some of you guys may know who he is. He does, in my opinion, really good stuff. And he has this little shorts on YouTube. You can find it on there. It's like 30 minutes long of his podcast. And, you know, some of his episodes are really, really long. They're sometimes 4 or 5 hours each, and they're multi-part, and they're not boring at all. And, in my opinion. And he does this thing, this 30-minute one, that compares, it was almost like a question that a reader sent to him. And I think the title of it is, who had the better military? The World War I Germans or the World War II Germans? And it's really worth watching or listening to, because it's just on YouTube, but there's no graphics or anything while it's playing. So I've listened to a lot of his stuff while mowing the lawn. He has a series called I think it's called Countdown for Armageddon. Something about Armageddon. That's like a 7 or 8 part World War I through, and it's really interesting because you'll hear things that you didn't know before. And I ended up power washing my whole driveway one weekend and listened to that, so it makes the time go by quick. But the video he has about who had the better military, the World War I Germans or the World War II Germans, is very interesting, where he compares all the different branches and stuff like that. So that's well worth your time. And he's got, not everything he does is particularly interesting. Like, a lot of people like the thing that he did on the Mongols. I thought it was really boring. I'm not a Mongol fan, sorry. I am a unapologetic, even though I just apologized, I'm an unapologetic, not a Mongol fan. So, and like I said, I'll do Huns before I do Mongols. It's the same damn thing, right? Kissing cousins, kissing ancestors. Did a lot of basic in World War II. Soviets, just finished them off. You know, I never think of calling them Soviets. Just like I don't think of calling the Germans Nazis. It's always Germans and Russians, but I don't think I ever call them Soviets. I think they're used to sold, never going to use them. U-boats World War I sank roughly 13 million tons. World War II sank 14 million. Yeah, yeah, it's close. It's close, but you know, part of it is like, okay, if you got a World War I U-boat, you don't have a good range, you can't do shit underwater, but for the most part, they can't sink you. You know. You don't have depth charges until really late, so kind of like a catch-22. It was really interesting. So, and of course, you know that my little World War I U-boat fact is, remember the World War I U-boat ace? I think his name was Vettinger. He ended up using the zero air power. That's right. That guy that sank the U-boats in the 3 armored cruisers in like 1914. It might have been 15. Anyways, early on in the war, Cressy, Hogue, and Aboukir, old British cruisers, he sank them like bam, bam, bam. Otto Vettinger, I believe is what his name is. He, with U-9. Later on, he ended up commanding a different U-boat, which I remember which one. I forget which one it was. But it surfaced. It was tracking some big boy surface ships in the Royal Navy, and it ended up getting rammed by the Dreadnought, and he ended up dying from getting his U-boat rammed by the Dreadnought. So the Dreadnought, who was not at Midway, that was not at Jutland, because it was off doing it was somewhere else at the time, ended up having the distinction of the only battleship to sink a U-boat. So I forget which, he was in another U-boat, but that's the same guy, the same captain. So crazy stuff. Otter Vettingen. Okay, not Vettinger. Vettingen, yeah. That's him. Rembrandt Dreadnought. Yeah, you pretty much can't survive that. Game over. Gotta watch Money Heist. Thank you for painting and chatting. I've watched 2 episodes of it. My mom and my brother swear by it. I just couldn't get into it. I didn't hate it, but I couldn't get into it. And I speak Spanish, but man, those people talk fast. I watch subtitles on everything. I put subtitles on everything, so that's nothing new. Maybe I've seen more than 2 episodes. Maybe it's 4 or 5. I just couldn't get into it. They swear by it, think it's great, but if I'm watching television, I'm not doing this. And this is what I need to do. I'm having a real hard time watching shows, staying interested in watching shows. As much as I like The Boys, for instance, I'm having a hard time with this current season. I'm only watching it when I'm on the treadmill in the gym, and just having trouble getting through it. I'd rather do something else than watch stuff. You're going to start Peaky Blinders. There's nothing that appeals to me for that. But, there's so much programming on there, I want to watch some historical dramas, but they don't seem to be available on all the stuff that we have right now. But no big loss. All right, we have that. I remember when Game of Thrones were going on, man, can't do this week. Gotta watch Game of Thrones. Now they're coming up with another Game of Thrones. Heard they were going to make a Game of Thrones with one of my least favorite characters in it. I'm like, okay, well, I don't have to watch that. That's the thing about Game of Thrones, is there's so many characters, you're bound to hate half of them. Did I ever watch The Tudors? I did. I made it through 5 or 6 seasons. I just lost interest. I don't like who they cast as Henry VIII. I don't think he was a good cast as the guy. Production cost for historical drama. Yeah, I can see that. Have you seen Versailles? Versailles is actually pretty good, other than the fact that almost nobody makes an attempt to make a French accent. I think Versailles is actually really, really good. Mitch and I really, really liked it. And it's, it's not really for war gamers. It's for, It's more soap opera-y than anything else, but I thought it was, we both liked it a lot. Okay, where's Metal Corner? You haven't seen that? Give it 10 minutes. Actually, that one you need to give 20 minutes. The casting on it is pretty good. That's usually where I get lost, you know. Metal Corner's over here. I'll put on Metallica and Iron Maiden. Gonna go see them in Tampa in what, in October? Not Metallica. I never liked Metallica. Actually, that's what I was listening to when I was at the gym. Get your Maiden out. Hopefully people behave. Hopefully people behave, because I'm not one that takes kindly to people being dicks, you know? How are you finding a new wet palette? All right. Well, I don't like this paper. It's just weird. Maybe I'll get used to it. It definitely doesn't loosen fibers on your paint, which didn't happen that often, but it was a problem. That's the only difference, really. It's weird. It's like, you know, if you ever had poster board, right? That poster board you had in school, it has two sides, right? One of them is like the side that's kind of like paper. It's like this. One side is like this, and the other one is like glossy. It's like you're painting on the glossy side, and I hated doing anything on the glossy side of the paper, of that poster board. It's kind of like that. I'm not saying it doesn't work. It's just weird. Yeah, it doesn't mean I'm giving up on it. It's just, I think it's a better seal, definitely. We got some copper pennies here in the corners, seeing if that affects some of the mold. No mold yet. So it's okay. My brother decided to get it for it on an impulse buy, and not that I needed it, but I'll be using this. I like that it's all made in the EU instead of, you know where. Listen to Brave New World earlier. I lost track of them after I had Live After Death on tape. I still do, and I played the living hell out of that. I lost track of them from basically 93 until now. So, I know the older stuff. So, we'll see. My brother really wanted to go see him. He's like, hey, I'll get tickets if you want to go. I said, fuck it, let's go. You know? Byzantines, Gabriel. So do you live in town? I saw your comment. Because this is the mecca of DBA. We play more than anybody else. I dare you guys to play more than we do. Yeah, I hadn't listened to that. That's, I've just kind of fallen out of it. I had a buddy of mine that got me into them in about, what would it have been, about 1990? And we used to sit around and play Sega Genesis and listen to that in the background. You can set up playlists on Alexa. Well, we got Apple Music for the family, so we got access to just about everything. And pretty much only listen to music when I'm at the gym. I only listen to books on tape when I'm driving. Books on tape, Audible. And I do this not talking nonsense while I'm painting. So everything has a purpose. And the books on tape while I'm doing yard work too. Books on tape. Well, that's what it used to be called. That's what it used to be called, books on tape. Please be kind, rewind. Please be kind, rewind. Yeah, we're going to do one of these things one time. We're going to do one of these Battle of the Bands things where everybody's going to have a certain amount of warband. Even somebody suggested you had to have a warband general. And the rules, everybody's got to wear a band t-shirt. Or if you don't, there'll be like some kind of penalty, like got to pay an extra pip for something. Or okay, Blockbuster. Blockbuster was around a lot longer for me than the Netflix CD service where you would send it in the mail. Because as soon as they started having things on demand, I'm like, screw this sending a thing through the mail. Can you have a P-Bob? I don't know where you're going with that. I don't know where you're going. No, you gotta buy a vowel. You can't have a P. I'm a little apprehensive of going to a concert because I've been to a concert and gotten and sat in the front row, and after you've seen that, you're like, yeah, that's where you want to sit. It's really pretty freaking amazing. But you have to be basically extremely wealthy or win the tickets, which is what happened to us. So this guy I used to work with had won tickets to see Rush, and the Coliseum sent him 2 tickets, and the radio station sent him 2 tickets. So he's like, hey, here's 2 tickets, and I'm going with my girlfriend. Bring a friend with you, and we'll all go. So we sat like 16 rows back, which still was good on the lower level. And we saw the opening act back there. And then in the intermission, I'm like, where's he sitting at? Oh, we're right up here, but there's 2 other seats here that nobody claimed. And I'm like, he's like, why don't you come up here and watch? I'm like, okay, I'll do that. But if somebody comes in for him, I'm moving back to my old seats because I'm not that guy. And yeah, we saw the first 6 or 7 songs up there in the front row, and it was. I'm not a groupie person. I'm not like, I gotta meet the person yet. It's just cool to just be right there, So, gotta go, sleepy time down south. Okay. There was a program on the UK TV blockbusters where kids had to get across the board US letters. What? Across the board using letters. That's why none of us understand it. We didn't understand where you were going with that. Oh, look, this guy's got a beard too. All right, we need to do the red. This dark red, which is what we've been using for the scrappy stuff. Wife's night shifts or no snoring tonight. Let's add a little bit of white to this. So I don't know what the deal is with this palette. I'm going to keep using it. It's weird that it looks like glossy, you know. Host of the program was called Bob, so can I have a pea Bob was a standing joke amongst the kids. Yeah, you'd always run into people you knew at Blockbuster. Wasn't that long ago, was it? Maybe it was. 20 years ago. Well, 20 years ago was yesterday. As far as I'm concerned. I think we need more of that red to brighten it up some. Where is she? Black books. And you're naming all kinds of stuff I never even heard about, but I don't really watch television. I wish I could watch television while I was doing this. I just can't. I'll be like, huh? And I got a TV right there on the wall. And I'd be like, huh? You know, if there's something to see, I can't listen to it without watching it. Like, I'm not that person that would have the TV running if I'm not watching it. Just feel like I'm missing something. So I'd just be glancing too long and the paint would dry on my brushes. I've tried it. It doesn't work for me. if I like British humor. Sometimes. Gotta watch it with subtitles, though. That doesn't really narrow it down. I don't watch everything with subtitles, but some accents are easier to understand than others. As a matter of fact, some are impossible to understand. And we're also not exposed to those accents all the time. So if we were exposed to them, we probably would be able to understand them a little bit better. But the only British I watched was Horrible Histories. Like the comedy's Blackadder series, one of my favorites. Took the pure rip out of English upper classes. I think I tried to watch it and couldn't get into it. I think maybe I was trying to watch it on YouTube and it was too grainy. And I was having trouble following along. All right, light blue for the sleeves and stuff. Man, we got to get the command post. The command post is going to be freaking epic. 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 I can't wait to do that. I got to leave that one for last. Where's the needle here? Oh, there we go. I don't know why this keeps clogging up. Yeah, they're like a little mini diorama. I'm not a fan of making camps. Because they just don't do anything. They just sit there and do stuff, and they don't do anything. But a command post, yeah, they freaking do stuff. Absolutely. This will be my second one. So, and actually have Norse Irish to do old, what's his name? Clontarf. I can't remember what his name is now. Guy didn't move around very much. He's too old at the time. Brian Boru. That's who it is. Same character all the same time periods. Isn't the first one in War of the Roses? Anyways, it's almost that same thing. Yeah, I think that's what it was. It was just too grainy, you know? I mean, the Monty Python stuff is really grainy as well, but if you find one that you gotta have subtitles, you don't want to miss any of that stuff. Funny thing is, my daughter always liked it. I remember showing her she was little. I don't think she might have not even been 10. She might have been like 9 or something like that. The Holy Grail. Always liked it. And she's only seen it a couple times. Every time she watches it, she finds something else funny. Last time I watched it, I really liked the part where the guy was beating the cat. First one was Queen Elizabeth I. I'm taking your word for it because I haven't seen it. I might have watched like 10 minutes of it or whatever. Yeah, I think I'd like the World War I episode, but you know, you can't just like jump around and watch that. I got to earn it, you know. So we actually have a brewery here that's called Blackadder Brewery and has the same logo and everything from it, from the show. They did George III took the total mick out of him. Man, I'm going to have to get a translator for that. Took the mick out of him. What, made him Irish? I remember the 4th of July, you got all those memes that go everywhere, you know, happy Treason Day peasants and the ones. I haven't cared about the royals since 1776, all that back and forth stuff on there. Didn't see that much of that this year. We knew he was mad, but not as mad as they made him seem. I don't know a whole lot about him. I have a feeling that by the standards of mad people through history, he probably wasn't mad at all. Because there's some crazy mothers, and I don't think he even comes close to, you know. I think the craziest thing about him is probably take that silly ass wig off. All right, does this other guy have pants? Oh yeah, I know what we did there. We'll mix that one up. Taking the mick is UK slang for extracting urine from someone. Take the piss, okay. Yeah, I don't think he's even top 10. I don't know. The UK did make top 10 worst empires on that thing. I was talking about that the other day. Top 10 worst empires in history. The British Empire is one of them. That's absurd. Sounds kinky. Sounds like waterworks. Wet work. Sorry, wet work. Oh, man. Yeah, I was looking that up on something about empires. I was like, I wonder what... Let me look up on the internet. 10 worst empires in history. You know, like evil or whatever. And the British Empire was up there. That's absurd. That's just absurd. Can you show that horses barting to the camera? Sure. What the hell? This one? A lot of USK slang is weird unless you know the origins. What's weird about UK slang. The thing that's the weirdest about UK slang, well, is what you call fanny. It's exactly the polar opposite for us. That's really weird. I found that out not so long ago, and I'm like, that's just odd. Are you just trying to be different? That writer does come separate. Yep. And this is an Old Glory guy. Yep. And this is what the barding will end up looking like. Oh. I like the half barding as well. So I had a dilemma, and that was later on, these guys end up being knights in the last Comnenian list. And I'm using these guys in both armies. And here's another guy with a barding. I'm going to face him the opposite way. So... and those guys, so I didn't want to, the horse barding, as far as I can tell during this period, was just dependent on how much wealth these guys had. So when they do have knights, they don't have any cavalry, and when they have cavalry, they don't have any knights. So these two guys have a guy shooting a bow, and I'm going to have a total of 2 more stands like this and a commander. These 2 other stands that are left, I have no more bow guys because I only had 2 guys in they're Elaine two-layer figures, and I don't have any more. So the other 2 guys will be the ones that will end up being the knights when I play the later list. And the only thing that'll be different about them is that they will have they won't have a bow figure in them, and the commander. So the commander is probably going to have all 3 horses armored or half armored, and these other ones are just going to have 1. So I thought about it long and hard, and I'm like, okay, that's how I'm going to rationalize how I'm going to do it. I do like the half armored horse. These are Old Glory horses, and the Old Glory horses definitely look like, well, some of them are Old Glory horses. The half-armored ones are. They look like something that could run you over, and, you're not going to have a good day. So. Where did I get the little rocks? So, this is stuff I got from work. It is a sample. I work at a concrete plant, and these are samples of granite that was left over. Like, hey, you guys want that? And it's just perfect little rocks, and I've used this a little bit. So any kind of rocks will work, but these happen to be harder than anything. These are actually harder than the metal that's in the figure because it's granite. And, I didn't start adding little rocks and stuff to things. I see other people's online stuff, and I'm like, I like those figures better than mine. The basing, why do I like it? Well, they put little rocks. Let's start putting a little bit of rocks on them. Oh, they use these tufts. Let's start using tufts. You learn from each other. So, yeah, those are Old Glory Byzantine. Yep. Yeah, and they honestly they look like shit. You could probably use some woodland scenic stuff. It doesn't need to be hard as granite. It can be, anything else. And I actually dry brush them a little bit, and then I go over them with a wash of a lighter color so they stand out a little bit more. But the video, as nice as they look on the video, they look better in person. The video just dumbs down how they look. I don't know how it is. I don't know how to explain it, but I look at the picture there, I'm like, that doesn't look very good. It looks very blurry. So, anyhow, I don't know how they'll fight in battle, but at least they'll look good. That's the part I can control. So yeah, you could use woodland scenic stuff. It just adds a little bit of other stuff, That's what the internet is, like, the best thing for this hobby, because we get to share ideas with people we'll never meet. And, it keeps us from running into a dark age of of information. So, because the figures I was doing pre-internet, back when I was doing my 20s, you know, they're still painted as good as anything I paint now. But look at the basing. It's just freaking Woodland Scenics. Tufts. This is my hero sculptor, Dave Alsop. And, you know, I probably spent, I don't know, 4 hours at each one of these figures painting them. But look how shitty the basing is. You know, because I didn't know any better. Because there was nobody around that had them, so you couldn't share information. So, at some point, I'm going to refurb these guys up. But need some half-armored cav for my Three Kingdoms army. I think these Byzantine Cavalry Lurkio has some half-armored, but they're like 10 millimeter size for some reason. Really? The Lurkio guys are small? Well, they are Chinese. Oh, but the horses are small. Yeah, it's probably a problem. I didn't know that. Essex also makes some half-armored horses, but Essex has issues with their horse. They have some really bored horses, bored-looking horses sometimes. Like, you know, guys just looking down like grays and like, I don't want to have anything to do with this conflict, you know. Yeah, the only people that make Three Kingdoms Chinese dedicated figures, doesn't mean there's not other ones you could make maybe work, but the only people that make dedicated ones is Lurkio. And they just came out with them in the last 3 years. They didn't have them before. And I think they look pretty good. Especially the heavy infantry. The heavy infantry looks awesome. They might actually look too awesome. Too awesome meaning they made them look a lot better than they would in real life. So this week, I updated the greatest general list that we've been using for some of our games and went ahead and put the inert guys on the same list. They're highlighted or whatever. And a couple guys got added. Phil added from the last list, and a couple guys got dropped. So, for the most part, they're almost all the same, but a couple guys got added and a couple guys got dropped. A couple guys got added I've never heard of before. Three Kingdoms only has Cao Cao in it, though. You like to use them as foot generals. Yeah, they look awesome. UK, and they have $40 shipping to the USA. That's a lot. That's a lot. But, you know, the domestic shipping's gone up a lot, too, so... Is $40 out of line? I don't know. It's all out of line if you ask me, but... I think it was just too cheap before, and they realized it was too cheap, and it was a time to get the stuff back. But I'll still order from the UK if I need to. You just have to make sure. You just have to be that much more sure that you're buying something that you're going to use, and it's not going to sit on a shelf somewhere. You know. Couldn't find Indian cavalry archers, but Scythian light cavalry by museum have little clothing on trousers No shirt, so I painted them brown skin, look Indian now. Well, they have weird pack method too. Either buy too few figures or too many. Yeah, that is weird. That is weird. I'm not going to be building the Three Kingdoms Chinese army anytime soon. Even though I am a big fan of that period. And they didn't make a figure for Lu Bu. Otherwise, I might be tempted. What a pain in the ass to beat his ass in Dynasty Warriors. What a pain in the ass. No, it's doable, but it's a freaking pain in the ass. That and that freaking barbarian in the jungle, whatever he is. What do you say? What would you say his name was? Meng Huo? I think his name's Meng Huo. What a pain in the ass that guy is. The guy keeps coming back 6 or 7 times. I know, it's all fantasy, but it's historical fantasy. Meng Huo. I think that's what his name is. Historical Lu Bu is kind of an idiot, but still a good cavalry commander. Yes, but non-historical Lu Bu is freaking badass. With those 2 peacock feathers. And what's the name of his mount? Red Hair, I think is what it is. I've got the Three Kingdoms Chinese Total War, and I played it a little bit. And you can actually, there's some, you can play in the historical method, or you can play the ones where you have like leaders and control the leaders and go in there, almost kind of like the way Warcraft 3 did it, in a way. I didn't mess with it very much, but been meaning to play Romance of Three Kingdoms 7 on my PS2, I keep forgetting. Days keep getting away from me time-wise. Yeah, the only thing I've been playing is that Field of Glory Empires, and been playing the Goths a little bit every night. But man, time really flies by when you're doing that. But exporting them to the battles, I'm basically really good at the tactical stuff compared to the computer. But having to struggle with that. I picked the Goths because they're back in the corner. And they're going to fight other warband stuff, so they have similar equipment. I don't want to like go and screw with, say, like the Sarmatians or whatever, and have like nothing I can respond to light horse. Where is? Hold on. This one. It's this one. I don't care about DBA packs because I want to pick who I want to paint. I don't mind having extra figures. I don't want to pay $40 in freight though. That's just... I don't mind having extra figures. Because then I can pick exactly which figures on what stand. I haven't seen 1917 yet. Easily the best World War One thing I've ever seen is that Red Baron movie with the freaking special effects with the planes, man. That's amazing. That's freaking amazing. Truly amazing. All right, what color thing does this guy have? Okay, it's kind of pink-like. Well, we're going to have to do something different because his saddle color is too similar to that. Is it time to do his fleshy bits? Yeah, I think it's time to do the fleshy bits. The fleshy bits. 1917 was beyond good. I don't know. I haven't. I have seen the Blue Max a long time ago, but it sucks. Special effects sucks compared to the Red Baron movie. Now the Red Baron movie, a lot of the stuff is really wooden, like you don't care about anything. But I'm telling you, the planes are just amazing, absolutely amazing. "1917 was beyond good." I don't know. It seems like it's really boring because it's only from one perspective, but I haven't avoided watching it. It just hasn't been, you know. I don't have cable, so if it's on AMC, I'll never see it. You know, I'll get around to seeing it sometime. Seems like it's kind of like a Saving Private Ryan type plot, right? Not watched it. What's Doctor Strange doing in World War One? So my daughter started watching the second Doctor Strange one. What a mess. I don't think I'm watching another Marvel movie. I think it's just, well, honestly, the only reason I watched them because my daughter was watching them. I'm not really into superheroes, but man, what a soup sandwich those things are. I'm not watching them anymore. And I may not watch any more Star Wars movies either after this Obi-Wan thing. What a waste of my what a waste of my time. Oh well. I'm not a fan of science fiction anyway, so. You're not Saving Private. Benedict Cumberbatch. I like him. Unlike Hiddleston. I don't like Hiddleston at all. You question the validity of the plot. Obi-Wan was bad. Yeah, I hated it. I hated it. I didn't hate it. It was disappointing. It was disappointing. But, you know, the only reason I watched it is because my daughter's watching it, and I grew up with this stuff, you know. I'm doing this wrong, aren't I? Yeah, let's go ahead and use this big old thing for just to put the base color down. Heavy woke vibes. Far out, man. Yeah, the little girl that plays Leia is annoying as shit. As was Anakin Skywalker in the first prequel. Fudgesicle. Nothing I can't fix, but why fix it? These are collecting a whole lot of paint for some reason. I'm not a fan of the Jedi stuff anyway, so not a big loss. Religious zealots. Stranger Things, even a bit too SJW. God, I hate it. Are you caught up finally so we can talk about it? Are you caught up or you still got those 2 episodes? It's part 2, season 4 to do. I hated Russia. I hated everything that was happening in Russia. It was just like, man, can we just like leave this? Stranger Things season 1 was awesome. Was freaking awesome. You're in season 3. We're not going to spoil everything up. The Russia part sucks. You know, it turned into, season 1 was just so great because you're figuring stuff out. It's kind of like, okay, well, if this is here, then this is like, oh, you're like learning as you're watching, and the other stuff is just too. Well, it's just like everything else. Sequels to video games are better. Sequels to movies or shows always end up going south. Or it seems to be the case. Season 4 was good minus the Russian parts. I didn't like Russia either. You complained so much about the Russia parts on season 3. They were stupid. I mean, who did they cast these guys? You cast like a bunch of bumbling fools. It was almost like comedy they were trying. I only watched it one time, so. Yeah, I liked the fact that it was in a shopping mall. Right, that was season 3, right? I think that was the right play, but the Russians were just dumb. It was like extra goofy. They were like dumber than the freaking Germans on Hogan's Heroes, but Hogan's Heroes trying to be comedy, so I can deal with it. But made no sense that the Russian troops would legit set up a base in the heart of America in that time period. It just doesn't work for me. They're like Power Ranger villains. Yep. Exactly. And it's just, I'm tired of what's her face. I'm tired of Winona Ryder. All she does is like mouth agape, eyes wide, mouth agape, without saying anything is not acting. That's like you don't remember your freaking lines. That's what that is. And that scene, man, nothing has even come close to that scene on season 1 with Barb in the pool. Nothing has come close to that. That was like, what the F is happening and what does it look like? And, you know, I love the Inquisitor too going, who do you work for? Dude is working an ice cream shop, sir. You never liked season 1. Yeah, if you didn't like season 1, it's only going to get worse. I still can't believe Steve survived season 1. It's unbelievable. I know he was supposed to die. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. You know? She was in Aliens? The best character of the show. Dustin was great in season 1. And this last season, it's like, where is he? He'll be in the middle of the screen and be like, where did he go? You know? You hated his character until the season 1. Yeah, so I thought for sure he was a goner. Yeah, I thought for sure he was a goner. Good. It's good to do unpredictable stuff. I also like season 1 because I felt like it was the plot of it, or basically how things went sideways, was really similar to the video game Half-Life. And I thought that that was a freaking great video game. I remember hearing so many things about it. I ended up getting it in, what it would have been, 1999. I ended up picking it up at like 7 o'clock at night on a Sunday. And I stayed up all night playing it, went to work, came back, and just, that was an epic game. Epic story. Captivating. So there's some similarities there. I'm sure the directors have played that game. There's no doubt about it. Winona the shoplifter. Yeah, I know. How could you forget that, right? She was an android in the sequel to the one that had Hicks. I've seen the first one's a great one. Everybody loves the second one. I don't think the second one's as good as the first one, but it's still good. The third one's the prison planet, and that one sucked. And then I didn't watch any of the other ones. And I didn't watch any of the crossover ones either. So. You didn't see her in Edward Scissorhands? I don't remember jack shit about it, but hey, it was 1990. The fourth one, then. Yeah, I didn't see the fourth one. The first one's a great movie, especially when it came out. I mean, other than the scene towards the end of the movie where she's making that phone call, right? She's making the distress call. So she goes in like the command room, the command bunker, whatever, and all these damn lights are flashing up and down like it was freaking Star Trek from 1966. You know, other than that, I think the rest of the movie's pretty solid. You know. Yeah, don't watch it now. If you haven't seen it yet, don't watch it. It's not worth your time. Beetlejuice. I saw Beetlejuice for the first time in the last year. I was never get that time back. I'd seen parts of it. A really good aliens-inspired game is The Wretched. Has a Jenga tower too. Ooh. We played the it's in one of my videos. Scott ended up bringing an aliens game where it was like a cooperative game with like miniatures, and that was a lot of fun actually. That was a fun little game. Dead Space. I haven't played that one. I've heard about it. Aliens game? How about Doom? We played the hell out of that back in the day. I remember that soundtrack, man. The music in that, it was all MIDI music. That's some classic shit right there. Then they made, what, Doom 3? Doom 3 sucked. But the newest one is really, is a natural progression from the first one. I think I played a demo or something of it. The Wretched. Sounds like a game that would involve like being cursed by a witch. The Wretched. Command and Conquer. Oh, yeah. That's a game that had a great freaking soundtrack. That was the first one, right? That was the first one, like, okay, go and do this. And you come back. What the hell have you done? But that one, it was just your little mining thing that you had to protect. Yeah. God, what would that have been? Like 1993? 1993, 1994? It's back when I didn't even have a computer. I had to go to somebody else's house to play it. Alexander's battles, another had Hannibal's battles. I don't know what that is. That'd be interesting to see. This would be the great time to plug Hannibal being a better commander than Alexander. Oh, that's right. We're back to that. Full circle. Hey, Hannibal didn't think he was a freaking god. Great Battles of Alexander was the title. Okay, good night, Will. Thanks for coming by. Not even close. Alexander was crazy. 1997. Hannibal was not a great commander. What? Oh, whatever. You just like Alexander because he had a boyfriend. And so did everybody else in the army. No, I'll say it again. Hannibal's army sucked. I mean, Hannibal would have been able, without Hannibal, the army's nothing. That's why they got their asses kicked in the First Punic War. Other than Hannibal's dad, he was the only guy that was like halfway, decent. Hannibal was a poser. I don't even like the Carthaginians. Hannibal got very, very lucky. Yes, everybody got very, very lucky. Oh, man. Alexander had a good army that his daddy gave him. Oh, man. And it was PR, too. He conquered the known world. Bullshit. You knew the Romans were right over there. You got to spin that a different way, man. You're not making me very good. You're not making me a believer. Bullshit. What would be interesting, though, is to do Hannibal stuff if he went, not Hannibal, Alexander stuff if he went and continued on, to where he was going to go next that he didn't get around to, like the Arabians. Well, that wouldn't have been very exciting, but, it is a different conflict. Carthage, and eventually work his way around to Rome. Alexander trained with that army from a young age. He did. The thing that made the Romans strong is those dumbasses didn't know when to quit. So, by the way, I did the intro scenario of, what's it called? Field of Glory Empires. The intro scenario is you play the Rome or Pyrrhus. So I'm like, fuck, I'm playing Pyrrhus. And I go in and march on Rome, 2 battles, crush them in both, and take Rome. Like, well, that was fun. Like, and I'm sure in other rule sets, Alexander's army is better than Hannibal's army every single time. Hannibal's army is a piece of shit. It is just a mixture of stuff that just That'd be an interesting do a set of battles where Alexander has to fight the Romans, that Hannibal had to fight, and Hannibal has to fight the Persians. Yeah. Freaky Friday. I can. There's a series of PBS called War. Had an episode they talk about good battle decisions were luck. Did have a total war with Alexander, other period Napoleonics. I never played the Total War Alexander. I would love to do one with. It's too easy with Alexander's army. This is freaking pikemen, man. You can't. Those pikemen can hold anything. You just bring the cavalry around and just hit them in the rear. Yeah, you can crush pikemen. It's going to take forever and a day. You can play into the Field of Glory Empire's development team that actually responded back to me. Huh. Be right back. I have to tend to laundry real quick. I know exactly what that's like. I'm doing half that stuff. I'm doing that stuff all the time. Not tonight, but frequently. It's funny that I've posed the question many times who everybody's favorite successor is, and nobody has an answer. And after going through, I think I just finished my 4th book on them, I still don't have a favorite one. So maybe people not knowing is the right answer. I can tell you this, the only good guy, if there is one, is Eumenes. But that bastard, he got backstabbed. And he just seemed like the most freaking honest of all of them. Yeah. Eumenes was definitely if there was a good guy, and there wasn't, but if there was a good guy, it was Eumenes. But he got backstabbed by everybody. Total War Alexander game gets the island of Cyprus confused with the Battle of Salamis. I don't know how they did that. Well, there was a naval battle of Salamis on Cyprus. Wasn't there? I think there was. It's not the same one where they stopped the Persians. I think there's actually 2. Because there's a battle where, I don't know if it's in Total War Alexander, but how far in the future does Total War Alexander go? Is it just Alexander, or does it go into the Diadochi? There was a battle of Salamis where Demetrius ends up defeating, I want to say, Ptolemy in a naval battle. So that might be what that is, but as Mr. Barker says, Hannibal's army lacks the ability to do on a war games table what it did in real life because most people can't manage Hannibal's generalship. I don't think anybody else could have pulled that off. And Antigonus and Eumenes, I think they're my favorite. Demetrius, a little overrated. Yeah, I don't know why he's considered the greatest general by Phil Barker. I would disagree. He's running around like he's a party animal. Thought you chose Ptolemy? I don't like Ptolemy. I don't like the Ptolemaic guys at all. They start inbreeding. That's just there's no need for that. What, he marries his cousin or whatever, and then they have 2 kids, a boy and a girl, and they marry each other, and that's just a little. There's no need for that. And I have a Ptolemaic army. And I don't know why he considers Lysimachus to be a greatest general either, a brilliant general. He was he did some savvy political stuff. He just happened to be on the right side of everything. So Bactria's cool too. Yeah. Still don't have a favorite. I guess that's pretty cool. Again, we're not counting Pyrrhus because he came later. Because there's no doubt who my favorite one is. My boy Pyrrhus. You know, and part of the reason that some of these guys you kind of have a lack of interest in, maybe that's not what I'm trying to say, but affinity for some of the others is they didn't have, like, you can't put a face on some of these guys because they didn't make a statue of them. Like, there's no way to tell what, like, for instance, Craterus looked like, or Antipater. You know, those two guys are pretty high up on the food chain and nobody knows what they look like, you know. Whereas there is one of Pyrrhus, and he looks pretty freaking cool. You know, I don't know if he really looked like that, but, you know, he's got a cool helmet and everything, so. Craterus apparently had a habit of wearing a cap. I don't know if you've seen one of those Macedonian caps. It's kind of flat looking, and it doesn't really have much height to it. It's almost like a pizza landed on your head. It's kind of a Macedonian hat, and he supposedly did not wear a helmet in battle. He wanted, you know, people to recognize him. So, you know, if I was going to build his army, I got to go make that, you know. Pyrrhus is someone I really can't stand. Why? Why can't you stand him? He's the first guy to put towers on elephants. Right there. That's a selling point for me right there. And I'll say it again. All these leaders of all these countries were all assholes. But what I mean, like, is, you know, like to read about them. And you're the first person to say that, and that's okay. It's all right to have a different opinion. Honestly, I didn't know anything about the guy until I started playing DBA. I really didn't know jack shit about him. I mean, I've heard of a Pyrrhic victory, and I'm like, okay, well, who knows what the fuck that's all about, you know? He didn't seem to get anything done where he went. Sure, I didn't say it was effective. Yep, he had ADD. He also didn't have a very big, a very powerful kingdom backing him up. So he would have to, like, you know, he couldn't fight a prolonged war against Rome because he just doesn't have enough supplies. I mean, his country's freaking tiny. It's not like he had all of Macedonia. Well, he got something done when he died. You like Poros. Yeah, he definitely ADHD. I don't know that... yeah. Well, I like him. That's good enough for me. Towers on elephants. Yeah, so if I'm doing anybody before him, and he's relatively late, what is he, like 280 BC? Anybody before him, I'm not putting towers on any of my elephants. So, Eumenes elephants, no towers. Yeah, who can I stand? And when I say I can't stand somebody, it means I'm not going to build their army. It'd have to be really bad for me not to build their army. Well, I don't like the Carthaginians, but I wouldn't build a Carthaginian army. I just can't get behind the whole child sacrificing thing, whether or not it may or may not be true. I can't stand them based on that. Even though I think Hannibal was brilliant, had nothing to do with it, you know. The Carthaginians are really annoying. It's like Hasdrubal, which one? Oh well, we don't have a back name. You know, they only used like 4 frickin' names or 5, maybe 5 on a good day, and they didn't have their last name. You know, so that's annoying as shit. DBA period. I would never build Arthur. I think Arthur's dumb as shit. You know, he wasn't even a real person, probably. So, you know, I'm just I'm not building that army. And Phil Barker spends like freaking almost a page and a half talking about that army. Like, you know, he's got a hard on for it. It's like, I can't stand the Arthur thing. That's probably the one I dislike the most, because it's just dumb, you know? His legend was based on a historical person. Yeah? Which one? It's wishful thinking. Who else? There's got to be other people I don't like. I don't like is probably the wrong thing to say, but I don't like probably stems from the everybody likes this, and I don't think it's that big a. I don't think he's that big a deal, or don't like him. So the more I hear about him, the more I dislike him, kind of thing. That's a long-winded way of saying that. Sub-Rowan doesn't have to be Arthurian, exactly. Boudica, if you're into female generals. Oh shit, I just read about one. Oh shit. There's a female general. That's brilliant. According to Phil Barker. I'm gonna pull it out for you. And I want to say it's Marrow. And Marrow, I believe, is a Book 1 army. And she's in there. Or maybe she's a nerd. Anyways, she's a named person. I did it the other day and I was surprised. Went, oh, there's a female on this list. $58. Nope, she's a nerd. Sorry. Well, at least she's named. Downgrade CNC as Queen Amanirinus. Amanirinus to inert general. Amanirinus is sometimes called Candace, actually her title. That's all it's... all right, sometime after the Kushite withdrawal from Egypt, the capital of Kush, Napata, was destroyed by the Sayyadic pharaoh Psamtik II, and a new capital was established to the south at Miro. The kingdom known as Ethiopia in Greek sources, still under heavy Egyptian cultural influence, was frequently ruled by the queen mother with the title Candace. And the other thing it says about it is Amanirenas was sometimes called Candace, actually her title. That's it. That's all it has on it. Yeah, because well, they make a figure for what's her name in the Palmyran army, but she's not a brilliant general or an inert one. But I came across that one the other day, this week. Zenobia, yeah, that's who it is. Zenobia. Do Zenobia army, but much rather do her husband's army. Ah, man. What is it? Odenathus? Sounds like a lot of doing there. Gotta have lots of plans. Wasn't Artemisia a naval general for the Persians and follow-up film to 300? It was probably make-believe then. Zenobia's army is good for dark in the sky battles. It is. It's a lot of shooters. It's a lot of shooters. Then you got to figure out what you're going to do with those light horse, because I think every version of her army has at least 4 light horse, so they got to hide on that one. Light horse and a bow battle. They don't need to be anywhere near that. Yeah, dark in the sky battles are fun, but man, they take a long time to play, because it's like, all right, how can I get my shots and not giving you any shots? Dark in the skies. All right, we need to do a helmet on this dude. Man, that's almost 11. Well, that's okay. We've gotten a fair amount done. No, she was a real person. Okay. Gotta be better than... Oh, you know who I hate? Alcibiades. Screw that guy. I remember reading about him, like, you turncoat bastard. And then they hired him. Like, who would hire a freaking turncoat? I wouldn't. And then he turned on him again. And then I run into the character when I'm playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I run into freaking Alcibiades, and I'm like, I'm not taking any of his missions. I did everything. I would do the stuff and tried to screw him in the process. Alcibiades, you dirty ass turncoat bastard. It's lighting up here in the UK now. Sunrise. Really? Oh, that's a nice little icon. I wonder how you were able to do that. All right, we're gonna go ahead and do this helmet, and then we'll call it a night. And this is the stuff I got to do the next couple weeks. Talk bad about Alexander and paint. Oh, Alexander the hairdresser. I don't have anything against Alexander, just... I would rather my generals, when they conquer a nation, not try to turn their nation into the nation that they conquered. Talking about Alcibiades, Nicias is one general I wouldn't bother with. Yeah, I think you were the one that mentioned about him, and I read about him a little bit, and yeah, he wasn't as bad as Alcibiades. Fuhow! I'm going to have to make an Alexander DV army. Kick all your army's asses, Tony. I'm going to show up with some bow and just rip it to shreds. Okay, Hoffman. Thanks for coming by. Alexander the hairdresser. I'll be like Leonidas, right? The taller, better-looking Alexander. So I read that in one of the books. I thought it was interesting. Of course, he was the first guy to go. That was the first guy to go. Poor guy got ambushed. He went to go and try to rescue Antipater from the siege of Lamia, and he got ambushed by the Thessalian turncoats that switched sides in that war. They turned against the Macedonians, and they ambushed him and pushed him into a swamp. And of course, he was outnumbered 2-1. Robert the Bruce's brother Edward was a bad egg, hated in Ireland and the Isle of Man. I got him. I got a figure for him. A bad egg. Was he a Scotch egg? Where's Eddie at? Here he is. He's got one of my favorite shields I've ever done, though. Can't be that bad. I'm gonna zoom in on that. This one, right. Yeah, there he is, Uncle Eddie. You like the green shielded cab, huh? Yeah, they turned out pretty well. So this is actually my rendition of a couple of it. It was difficult to find out what knights fought with him, and this is my version of the heraldry of these guys, and I don't know who they are anymore. I did a video painting them up, so you have to look at what that is. Can you see that whole army? No, I'm not going to pull them out. It's too late. It's my Irish army. It's my Irish army, and I'll show you my Scottish figures that go with it. The Scottish contingent of them. These are Old Glory horses, by the way. And these guys are all gladiator. Nope, we gotta get farther away. With their pikes replaced, because the pikes that came with the frickin' gladiator ones were worthless. Worthless. Yeah, the color's way off on your screen. It looks like really warm for some reason. Yeah, they're kind of rustic type figures, but they turned out okay. Yeah, this is self-proclaimed King of the Irish. That didn't last long. So, the problem with using this figure, the stand, is you end up getting you end up not being able to use Odago, and I like that light horse general with the dog. What am I using for pikes? They're pins, and these guys are probably 1.5 inches long, maybe even close to 2 inches long. Yeah, they're all metal. They're not going to bend. Yeah, they definitely look the correct length. But I think about that when I put them on there. And I don't like using piano wire because I like them to be tapered, and I don't want to sit there and freaking nail them. And some people have, you put them in a vise, and I don't have time for that. These things work just fine for me. So yeah, this is the Scottish contingent, so, of that army. I love my Irish army because they suck. They're super, super light. Anyhow, white with red chevron was Lord of Carrick. Yeah, I looked into doing all that stuff. I don't remember anymore. So there's a steward in there, and there's I narrowed it down to like 5 guys that were with him, and then I had to go find the heraldry for him, and just to kind of limit myself, so I didn't just make things out of nothing. So okay, folks, that's it. How long were we on here? Almost 3 hours? Yeah. We made some good progress. I got a shield left to do, and tinkering with the horse, the lance, and then this guy's done. So we need to just keep plugging along so we can get these guys done. Because we've got this stand to do, one other stand of cavalry, a cavalry commander, and the command post. And the command post is going to be awesome. You got this guy that's going to be on the command post. We got the freaking emperor in the middle of the stand. Everybody on the stand is going to be on foot except the emperor. So we got there's going to be some Varangian guard guys, which were spearmen at the time. Got a guy with a flag, cast flag on there, and Rick's favorite guy, the guy that blows the horn. So Hieronymus, Heraclius, the horn blower. Yeah, you got to go back to work, Dirk. Maybe it's a sign you should be at work. Okay, folks, until next time.